Warning: the views and opinions expressed in this program are our own and/or those of our guests. They do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of our employers. Viewers' discretion is advised.
A brand new SOP just got dropped.
The big deal here is the standby having to be on for 10 years instead of for 2 years.
As someone who was the first to do the 3% referral fee, again, pioneer.
And I want to use this as an opportunity here. And this is a little bit spontaneous, but I want to come out.
How's everybody's week so far?
Week is going good. What's today? It's Wednesday. Shout out to Mike Smith at Fifth Third Bank.
Shout out, Mike Smith.
Had a lunch with him. He does watch the show.
Okay.
Big fans of the show. Sterling, you said what's up? Paul Rush, happy birthday. I know we missed Paul. You today. Who else? Shout out to Susan Kayette, our Chief Credit Officer, who also watches the show. So thank you. Okay. If you're still listening and still hanging with us, thank you. And shout out to Alan Peterson. We miss you. AP. Hope all is well.
And shout out to Krogi and he's probably sleeping right now, right? No, It's probably like 11 o'clock there, p.m.
Krogi's
Scotland.
In Scotland.
Yeah, they're ahead.
Krogi's
like
an old man, so he's probably been in bed for at least 6 hours.
Yeah. Sun was still up.
Sun was definitely still up.
BDOs. Have you ever had a borrower bring in like a brother-in-law to do their life insurance? Doesn't end well, does it? We've all been there. When you require life insurance on your SBA loan, it's critical that you bring in a company that specializes in getting these policies in place for the SBA loans. The last thing you want is for life insurance to be the holdup. We all know that's a rookie mistake. SBA Protection Quick Close Life Insurance is the fastest, easiest way to secure the insurance protection that your borrower needs for their SBA loan. Their process is simple, hassle-free, and only takes a few minutes of your borrower's time. No lengthy paperwork, no complicated forms. They even have programs that don't require labs or doctor records for approval. And best of all, you will have the collateral assignment back in less than 24 hours. It's a no-brainer. Go to SBAprotection.com for more information or email Adam Bergen at adam@sbaprotection.com.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the BDO Show, a podcast for passionate BDOs wanting to level up their game with advice and stories from battle-tested BDOs. I'm your host, Emily Detor, and I'm here with my two fellow co-hosts today, Sterling Birdsong and Chris Hackney. At the beginning of each episode, we're always going to remind you to like, subscribe, and send over your topics and suggestions to the BDO Show at artofsba.com. And do not forget to check out our whole family of shows, SBA Today, which airs live every week, and the Art of SBA Lending podcast. Today's episode, big news as of yesterday. A brand new SOP just got dropped and it's causing a ripple effect. It's causing some waves. We've got to go over the changes. We're going to talk about the things that stayed the same. Again, changes. We're going to talk about some winners and some losers, our takeaways. We also have a surprise guest on the episode today, Mr. Ray Drew himself. He's also going to be weighing in. So Chris and Sterling, first of all, before we get into the episode, are you shocked at some of these changes?
I definitely wouldn't say that I'm shocked at the changes. I think that there were some that surprised me more than others, certainly. I mean, we will get into that as we start to go through each of these changes here. But I think that everybody who's been paying attention and reading the room understands that the SBA was going to make some significant changes to what came in, especially during the last couple of years under the Biden administration. There's certainly been an effort to try and roll that back. And as a lender, obviously, we're all going to feel certain types of ways about it. But I think that overall, as a bank, some of these changes are probably going to help credit quality in the long term. And ultimately, that's what's most likely best for the sustainability of the program. So we want to make sure we keep it zero subsidy. And I think that this is moving in that direction, even though I may not like some of the changes for other reasons. And, I'm sure we'll get into that. What do you think about it, Chris?
Yeah, I wasn't shocked. I expected some reverting back to what the prior SOP was or close to that. So I wasn't necessarily shocked. I'm okay with most of the changes. I know we're going to go through them step by step or each of them too. It wasn't really shocked. I think overall it'll be a good change. We'll get used to it as we do. If you're a good SBA BDO, which people that listen to this show are, and the people on this show, you'll be able to adapt and continue your production.
Yeah. And as a reminder to everybody, this was published yesterday, but it's not effective until June 1. So let's go ahead and get into some of these changes. First change had to do with equity injection. So the change was to be counted as equity, seller debt must be on standby for the life of the SBA loan, and it does not exceed half of the SBA required equity injection. Let's go ahead and talk about those impacts. Chris, what do you got?
I think this was a direct result of the kind of searcher community. And if you look at the data, the change of ownership transactions financed via 7A increased from 5.5 billion in fiscal year 2023 to 6.6 billion in 2020. Hey, speaking of
Ray
increase,
Drew.
our knowledge base just increased. We got Ray Drew in the house on the set.
I changed the color of my set for you
To
guys. You
match.
like
I
that?
noticed that.
Oh.
I noticed that.
You
I
got
noticed-
mood lighting. Of course,
I
you
don't
would,
even have
Ray.
a curtain and you change the back wall a different color. I love that.
This
Gotta
is
up
like
your
Tom
game.
Brady joining a regular ESPN broadcast to kind of opine on that. Thank you
Yeah.
for coming down.
Well, Alan couldn't be here, so you
Who's that?
needed like an
And
SBA
Krogi.
guru.
Yes, we did need an SOP expert there. We were
Thanks.
just talking about the first change. I think we're going in
Equity
order of importance,
injection.
but equity injection with the seller note being half the injection or no more than that and standby for life of the SBA loan. But I think this is a direct response to the increase in change of ownership transactions from fiscal year 23 to 24. It went up 1.1 billion in 7A total volume in just that one category of financing. So that's 20%. I think they're trying to slow some of that down. I think the whole, and granted, we haven't had enough seasoning on these searcher type of loans, but I think they want to see the buyers putting in some skin in the game there. I don't know, Ray, what are your thoughts on?
Well, a lot of these facts are getting misconstrued and used to try to, help people get what they want. And so, like what you just said, $1 billion more of change of ownership. Well, as a percentage of the overall growth of the program, so up 1 billion versus what, 5 billion the previous
Yeah, it
year,
was
so it's up
5.5.
18%.
Yeah, 20%, 5.5 to
Okay.
6.6.
So all the other types of proceeds are up 30%, 40%, and this is only up 18%. So when you say it that way, now all of a sudden it doesn't have the same ring to it. The same thing with just the overall default. It's like, okay, because of these defaults, we got to tighten not only back to 2022, but like even beyond and go even tighter, right? SBSS score is now 165. So is the defaults because the SBSS score is 155, or are the defaults because we had that COVID era, all the liquidity was in there, all the COVID relief was in there, then it starts drying up, and now all of a sudden the defaults are 3.69, which in the grand scheme of the thing isn't like crazy, but a lot of that was the catch-up defaults, and a lot of it's tied to interest rates, but they want to say it's because of all these changes, which maybe in the future the changes would have been, that would have been bad, right? Like no equity injection for startups, all those do what you do stuff, no cash deals on acquisitions. I get all that. But then they made all these other changes over here. And I'm just confused.
In terms of the equity injection component of it, I do think that it's probably appropriate that people put down something when they're going to buy a business, even if that something is only 5%. Now, listen, I'm fully also on the board of when the rules are in your favor, use the rules to your advantage. I don't see anything wrong with people who went out and got 100% financing using a seller note during the last couple of years. But, when I, as a lender, look at that, or as, as a person who owns bank stock, those to me are riskier transactions. And so I do think that is probably appropriate for, someone to put some of their skin into the game. And, if they have to go raise some equity from investors and things of that nature, then so be it. So I don't see this as a real huge factor in the long run in terms of ability to find loans. I think that many people, as you said earlier, Chris, are going to be able to adapt. And people are still going to find a way to get their business, because really what we're talking about here is going from 0% to 5% potentially as a down payment. Now that's not the big deal here. The big deal here is the
Seller
standby
note.
having to be
Standby for
on for 10 years instead of for 2 years. Because in reality, I don't know too many sellers who are going to be comfortable with their money staying out there for such a long duration of time. And I think that that's going to be a much bigger issue here. And that's the one thing I will say is that I do feel sorry for the people who potentially would have been able to maybe buy out a company that they worked at. The employee who was going to be buying out an owner who'd worked in the business for a long time. We all like financing those types of transactions because they're great from an experience standpoint. That's going to pretty much all but go away unless that person is also able to go out and find some investors that would be willing to help them make that down payment. So that's the one thing I would say. Those types of transactions, I think, are going to be missed by me as a BDO.
Yeah, and what I would say to the BDO community, like if you this is why you never ride a wave. If you left a bank to go join a bank to do biz act deals exclusively, and we're doing all these searcher kind of community parties, and you thought, oh, I can ride this wave. Well, guess what? That's kind of shriveled up. This is why you want to make sure that
That
you're
hasn't
able to
shriveled up.
And to be fair, it's been a long wave. Let's not.
Oh, it's been like 2 years.
It's
been 2 years.
This wave is this is the silver tsunami, okay?
No, you can still buy a business. What I'm saying though, if you went to a bank where you could just do searchers that are doing a 10% seller note, they've got no experience, but you got a business and a pulse, and we all know who those banks are that are doing those types of deals, like then you're kind of screwed. I think if that was your focus, it's easy.
How though? What's the difference? Like what changed that would impact that business model?
That would impact that business model. Well, the buyer is going to have to put in 5% cash.
Those buyers,
at a minimum,
they were already putting those banks were doing. They
were doing seller note. No, they were
putting in no money.
No money down. You don't read these tombstones.
I don't think it's as prevalent as maybe some people think it is. I think what was more prevalent was the 5 and 5 structure. But if we're really being realistic, the 5 and 5 structure basically is going to be going away too, because as we just talked about, no seller is going to hold his paper out there for 10 years unless it's like what Krogi said in the prior episode, and essentially somebody's overpaying for a business and they're comfortable just with never getting their money.
And we all just need to basically close our eyes. And if you're a seller and if Sterling owns a business, he wants to sell it for $5 million. First of all, he's got a very solid business and it's going to have multiple buyers. And there's going to be a buyer over here that wants to put 5% down cash. And there's going to be one over here that wants to put 10% cash. Now, unless I'm going to get more money from the 5% guy, I'm going to go with the 10% guy because it seems like they've got their act together. They've actually got the money to do this. But that 5% guy, they might be a little bit more willing to pay a higher price. And so I'm going to go with that 5% guy only because I'm netting, even the 5% seller note aside, I'm netting more. So now all of a sudden, that business value is inflated. And,
so are we saying that our business valuation partners can just come up with a number? Is that what we're saying?
No,
I hope
what
not.
I'm saying
Not
is
the ones that sponsor our show.
If you have a 2-year standby seller note, that seller is going to view it as actual money. Whereas if it's a full standby, they're going to assume that they're not even going to get that.
Right. But I thought I heard that we could say that then you would up the purchase price and kind of assume that you're not getting
I'm saying that's not saying that's something we could do. I'm just saying that that's in reality what people in the market will do.
It's not a set plan.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a set. No one's going to go and think that way. But
if you inflate the purchase price,
the
valuation,
knows the value.
But I'm saying, okay, if I say, okay, because of this rule change, the business I'm listing at $1 million, it needs to be 1.1 now. So then that means that all of a sudden that business is going to value at 1.1?
No, I'm putting it out for $1 million, and I've got offers at 900. I've got offers at 950, and I got this full price offer here at 1 million, but I've just got to hold a 5% seller note.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like if you pay cash, you might get a better price. Well, it's the same type of concept. And if that was a 2-year standby, this is my point. The SBA would actually be better off and have mitigated more risk if they had kept the 2-year standby. Go ahead and limit it to half the injection. Fine. But if you have a 2-year standby.
For years, SBA lenders have relied on referral sources because, let's be honest, reaching businesses directly is just not how the industry worked. It was too hard to find the right contact info, and when you did, actually getting them to engage felt impossible. When Ray first heard about this, he was skeptical because he gets pitched every single day. But 15 minutes into this demo, he realized something. This could actually work. Resquared lets you reach local business owners at scale in a way that actually works. Ray's been using it for a few months now, and not only is it effective, but it's kind of fun. In just a few minutes a week, he's sending targeted messages to small business owners and getting real conversations started. Like the childcare owner he connected with that was looking to buy their second location with an SBA loan. If you ever considered connecting with small business owners and didn't have the right tool to do it, this is it. Resquared is offering a discount just for BDO Show listeners. So go ahead and schedule your demo today, and we'll leave a link in the show notes for you below.
Then you don't have to even play those games because the seller's going to be able to taste that money in 2 years.
Yeah,
That's not
shorter
that
than
long.
right.
And
But a
also,
5% full standby is just forget about
and
it.
also, Chris, I don't believe it actually needs to appraise at the purchase price. It just needs to appraise above the loan, right? So
Correct. Yeah,
that
the
is
SBA loan can't finance more than what the business, just the SBA proceeds. So yes,
right.
that
So
is
if you,
correct.
so it doesn't actually need to appraise at whatever the new purchase price is. It just needs to appraise above whatever the actual SBA funds are that are being lent towards the acquisition.
Right.
And so that's still probably going to be it's going to be a max 90%.
Yeah.
So really, it needs to appraise for 90% of whatever that new purchase price is.
So we're going on record because we can track this data 2 years from now, and we're going to say that SBA change of ownership transactions is less than 6.6 or more than 6.6 billion, or like
Oh, it's
what's
going to
our
be more.
thoughts?
It's
More. Okay.
always going to be more. I mean, listen, the program I think is growing. There's new BDOs coming in every single year. I think that more people are understanding the program every single year and how it can be utilized. And I mean, you have a bunch of people out there who are teaching people how to buy businesses. Myself included, sterling.sba on Instagram. Check me out.
Hey, yo.
So I mean, if you are paying attention out here, there's plenty of places that will teach you about how to buy a business. So I think it's only going to become more and more popular in the long run, SBA lending in general, not just business acquisition lending. I think people just understand the program better and how it can be utilized at a much higher level. So,
And I guess a better way, then we can move to the next one too, Emily. Will we see another 20% increase between fiscal year 2025 and 2026, Ray, in change of
The better
ownership?
question is, how can we see a 20% increase? Because if you look at the default rates of startups, existing businesses, and acquisitions, do you know what has the lowest default rates? Acquisitions. Shout out Lumos.
I was gonna say I know where you're getting that data from.
All right, well, let's go ahead and switch topics. Let's go ahead and talk about MCAs, the next change. Ineligible for refinance. Let's talk about the impact there, Sterling.
Yeah, this one is one that I don't like. And the primary reason that I don't like this is because I feel like business owners need a way out of the MCA space. I think that, MCA lending, oftentimes people get into it not really understanding what they're actually signing up for. And it can be really unfortunate for a business owner that maybe is a little bit naive and signs up unknowingly for a 50% interest rate, and all of a sudden they quickly realize that they're putting their business in a very difficult situation, and most times they're not going to be able to earn their way out from under that loan. And so we were kind of like the life preserver that was thrown to people in the ocean to essentially get them out of MCA land and into a debt that's more manageable so they could actually continue to operate their business. Now, of course, there was always bad players. There was always people who would just run up MCA money real quick and then run to an SBA lender and look for a quick refinance. But from the MCA debt that I've refinanced throughout my career, the vast majority of people were people who just did not really understand truly what they were signing up for on the front end, and they were getting absolutely crushed. And so it's going to be really unfortunate that those people don't have that life preserver going forward. And I think that unfortunately it will lead to a lot of small businesses filing bankruptcy.
Ray, what do you got?
It's Ray's
Why'd they
fault.
include factoring? First of all, it's Ryan Kroge's fault.
No, it was your
Why'd they
episode of
include-
The Art of SBA Lending, episode 225, I believe. But yeah, they watched.
You guys did one on here too, right?
We did.
I guess it was a tag team,
Yeah.
but They added factoring in there. I never viewed factoring as because
Like
the reasoning
predatory. Yeah.
was it was predatory, but factoring I never viewed as predatory.
Me either. No.
There's so it's interesting that that got lumped in there, but I could go I could go both ways on this one because on one hand, I think 90% of those deals are probably bad deals. That's like saying commercial real estate brokers are sleazy, so we're not going to finance commercial real estate deals anymore. It's like
We love our CRE
why
brokers, by the way.
why shout out 100% financing at Truliant Federal Credit Union
Bow, bow,
for
bow.
all right.
Plug.
So no, but it's like why you're gonna tell the bank not to do these because the types of people that get those loans are not good
Yeah,
borrowers.
that's what I
Like
didn't like.
let
Oh, they're more likely to go and get another one. You don't know that. If I
Mm-mm.
run a stop sign once, that means, oh, he's always going to run stop signs and Chris shouldn't drive. That's what I disagree with is you're categorizing all borrowers based upon, I don't know what the sample set is. Maybe it's small, maybe it's half, but you can't cast a wide net over all borrowers that have an MCA that they will go get a second MCA or a third
Right.
MCA. That's just not, you don't have the data to support that. So
Yeah.
you're making an assumption and you're penalizing based on an assumption. And the whole spirit of the program is to help small business owners. If you're in an MCA product now, you've got no other lifelines, really.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you get into a
No one's going to do this
lower rate.
conventional. No one's going to
Right.
refinance an MCA conventional. And here's the news, guys: is that MCA is not going away. You guys think that just because there's not a way to get out of it now that that MCA is going to stop existing? It's not. I mean, these guys are sharks, and I mean that in a good and bad way. I mean they are hungry. They are calling business owners every single day. I don't know how I got on one of their lists or something like that. I get text messages almost every single day from people trying to give me working capital loans for my small businesses. And I know for a fact that half those people who are reaching out to me are probably MCA lenders. And if I was a person who wasn't as financially savvy as I am or is extremely desperate, odds are I'd probably be in a text chat with one of these people right now trying to find some way to get some quick capital. So, these people are not going to stop finding a way to put MCA debt on people's balance sheets. And I did like that the SBA program was able to clean it up when a lender saw a situation where they thought they could help. Now, again, there's always going to be people who are going to take advantage and going to continue to go get MCA loans. But in reality, I think what maybe they should have done, and maybe this is difficult, I don't know, but maybe they should have put a cap on how much MCA debt can be refinanced or how many individual MCA notes can be financed per EIN or something along those lines where it can stop repeat offenders, but it doesn't necessarily bar people completely who maybe just made a bad mistake one time.
well, and their mistake was saying the reason is because of it's those people when all they really had to say was these aren't loans. How can you refinance it? It's not a loan.
That's true. That would have been a better positioning. Ray for the next SBA administrator.
Yeah, exactly. The guy looks
Can
like
you
a politician.
imagine? Yeah,
All right,
I can see it.
let's switch subjects one more time here. Partial change of ownership. Any selling owner who remains as an owner of less than 20% of the business post sale must provide a guarantee for the full loan amount for 2 years.
Did you memorize that, Emily?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a
was
fan.
good.
I don't know how you guys feel about it, but not a fan of this one. I like the partial buy-in. I think that it was a great way to bridge the experience gap in certain instances. I like it when a seller would be sticking around in a minority capacity, because I mean we've done transactions like that fairly recently, and I mean on the one that I'm thinking of, it was a pool building business, and the guy ended up holding on to 10% of the equity, and I mean they've gotten in there, and he's been instrumental in helping them get their bearings in that business. He's still there. He still shows up every single day. He still works as hard as he did before. And without him, I think that they would be in a much more difficult situation, and they wouldn't be able to get their legs under them as quickly as they have. So, I think that it was a good thing to be able to have sellers stay on board, and by saying that they're going to have to guarantee the loan for their buyout for 2 years. I mean, again, they basically have stopped this from being a thing because there's just not going to be too many owners that are going to agree to that.
Yeah, effectively, this is sunset, the partial change of ownership. I could only see this if, like, you've got a manager, worked in a business for 10 years in a close relationship with the owner. That's probably the only way you'll see these transactions being done in that case. Other than that, I don't see someone coming in externally from the business and buying in, and the seller doesn't really have a relationship with them and them guaranteeing their debt to buy into the business. I don't see that. So this is a step in kind of discontinuing that. But
Ray, what do you think the SBA was trying to guard against here? What do you think the thought process is?
I think the thought process was, first of all, you could do a partial buy-in with no money down because of their SOP, right? You look at the balance sheet, look at the 9-to-1. So theoretically, you could buy a business with no money down. And that opens the door to no skin in the game, right? So so the seller has a ton of skin in the game in their own business. So if you bring them into the loan, then you kind of solve that problem. Horrible solution and just not right, because I just don't think that fundamentally they understand what this is. Like, this is rolling equity to mitigate risk, and we should want it. And I think the fix should have been that buyers should have to put in cash, right? I would have rather seen mandatory injections for these.
Yeah, bring the
because
10% equity injection requirement for a partial buy-in.
Exactly, because you're 100% right. I mean, I probably a third of my acquisitions are actually like partial changes. And now we're going through the pipeline and they're all getting converted to complete changes. So it's not like, oh, we're getting seller guarantees now and mitigating risk. It's like, no, we're getting complete change of ownerships. Sellers are out. All of the burden's now on the buyer. And we're actually introducing more risk.
Right.
And the thing that they added onto it that I thought was really interesting too is that now when there's a partial change of ownership, if there's a minority owner, that minority owner also has to guarantee. And I mean, this is somebody who's coming in new, right? So
Well,
let's say that.
co-borrower.
Oh,
Co-borrower.
I'm sorry. Yeah, they had to be a co-borrower.
Yeah.
Yes. So I thought that was really interesting as well. So hey, I'm just investing in Ray because Ray wants to buy out, 90% of Chris's company, and now I'm going to be a 5% owner, but I have to be a co-borrower in that situation. That seems really stringent to me.
That just is probably a way to just make these more convoluted and, put up another obstacle. People trying to do these transactions and do less of them. But yeah, that's maybe the end of partial change of ownership.
They're the Walking Dead right now. They're still alive, but they're just kind of zombies.
For the record, I was the first to do a partial change of ownership transaction back when no one knew if the seller had to guarantee or not. I said they don't. Who's going to argue with me? And we did it. Then they actually published a notice where they said the seller didn't have to guarantee. So for the record, that was me.
So just so we're clear, Krogie's not here, but you're actively aging yourself right now.
Well, I was told I'm looking older, so
you were
roll with it.
You were told this by who?
Violet.
Oh, okay.
Next topic.
Next topic in the new SOP: multi-step transactions. The change was multi-step partial change of ownerships are ineligible. What's the impact there, guys?
It was already getting convoluted. It's the same thing. It's just they want to get back to basics. They want to go back in time. I mean, that's basically what's happening here. Is the fact that we operated with a loss last year and the defaults are up gives the people who are fighting all of these changes that will go unnamed the license to basically say, I told you so, and we should do all these things and basically reverse all these other things that they didn't want in the first place, even though it's not tied to preserving the program or reducing risk. It's actually in many cases the opposite.
So basically what they're talking about is if you're trying to buy somebody out, but you already are an owner, but you're not going to be buying them out at 100%. That's my understanding of it. Is that your understanding of it as well, Chris?
Yeah, multi-step to me, in my interpretation, that's why I said this is above my pay grade, but for like where you could do a stock purchase as an asset purchase and the seller, the prior owner is rolling over their equity into the newly formed asset to buy the stock of the business. We don't do any of those.
That's all. They were just doing. That's right. They were just doing fancy names on sellers rolling equity via an
Yeah, it's like
asset
an equity
purchase.
rollover for an asset purchase. You're buying the stock of a company via an asset purchase, forming a new co, and so you're essentially rolling that over. They've stopped all that. You can still, what the SBA says, request that change post closing, but highly doubt they'll approve any of those. So again, this goes back to one of the episodes we recorded this year where we were talking about a lot of the searcher equity rollover type of transactions. And, some of us were for the spirit of the program and we revived Dwight Eisenhower or resurrected him, and some of us were not. So this goes back to that. They want to simplify what SBA lending is and make it look like it used to, with more just streamlined, simplified transactions, and not get into, quasi private equity type of transactions.
The name, they just come up partial change of ownership. It just tells me they don't really because like these are standard practices in private equity. And I think they don't want this to become private equity. However, the principles behind it actually benefit the buyers and the borrowers. So it's kind of, I just don't know. I can't explain a lot of the changes.
Small
Well,
loan threshold?
I was going
Oh,
with
go
the
ahead, Ray.
small loan
Yeah.
stuff because I wanted to know, Chris, if you thought, because to me, it's like the small loan's gone from 500 to 350. So right away, I'm just looking at this like yesterday, I was actually excited about building a small loan. And today we're pretty much like, should we scrap it? And then
You should from the
Ye-
start. No, I'm just kidding. It's
and meanwhile,
small loans are tough.
SBSS 165, I thought the problem was that no one was doing cash flow and they were going score and go.
Yeah, so for me, our small loans are concentrated under 350. Really, we didn't have an up to 500 small loan program like some of our competitors do. So not a significant impact to our bank. What I don't understand here, it just makes things more complicated as far as taking real estate collateral on a $400,000 loan and encumbering a second on a primary residence for 400,000 of working capital. That's not streamlined when they can go get an MCA for 350, probably not that high. They probably can
Didn't they
stack
not have
MCAs.
collateral rules on 350 before?
350 to 500 is what I'm saying, that gap. So
I know, but on a 350K, on like a 250, 350K deal,
there was no collateral. Yeah.
there was no, so they went back and then beyond where it was.
Well, what I'm focused on is just real estate collateral specifically. So now in the 350 to 500 gap, let's say you got a biz act that's small, it's 550 or 600. You say, hey, buyer seller,
Okay.
put 100 in, and this is now a $500,000 loan for an acquisition of the business. You don't have to complicate the transaction. So you're missing out on that. And then also, let's say it's a working capital loan of 400,000. Now you're going to need to encumber real estate if they have it, which to me, that just doesn't make sense for that small of a loan.
So you still don't need secondary collateral on the 350 and under.
No, you don't need for real estate. You do not.
Got it.
No.
Do you think this would stop borrowers from looking at the small loan program for their loans now because of?
No, it won't. I think the small loan acquisitions in that 400 to 600 space, it might make people think twice, and maybe they're just gonna buy a bigger business. If I've got to put my house up as collateral instead of buying a 400 business, maybe I buy a 700,000. I don't know. Maybe they'll think in that vein and like, wow, do I really want to put my house up to buy this small pizza shop? Like, is that really something I want to do and pledge my free and clear home for this? Whereas before, if it was a smaller acquisition, they didn't have to think about that in that 350 to 500 space. Yeah, I don't know. With this one too, I think the main thing what they also brought back, which I agree with, you got to verify transcripts. Now, I think people aren't focused on that, which we were already doing that at our bank. So like, duh, you should be doing that. Banks that weren't doing that, that was just not prudent lending. So I'm okay with that, verifying the transcripts. And in fact, we're heading in the direction, like I've said before, looking at bank statements. The SBSS score, I love my SBA friends to death, but it is not predictive. It is not indicative of performance.
Should they replace that score with Lumos Prime Plus?
If it were me, Brett's my friend. I think the Lumos Prime score is a viable option for predicting repayment ability, is what I would say.
What a presidential answer.
Yes, yes, is what I would say. a big fan of Lumos and what they do there. But I don't think the SBSS score provides the indicators that we're looking for performance of a loan. I think it's a score. I think it makes you sleep good at night when you originate the loan, but I don't think it makes you sleep good at night in month 24 or 36 if you only relied upon the SBSS score, which you shouldn't be to begin with, too.
So looking ahead into June, have you guys already had like meetings and discussions on these changes and how it's going to impact underwriting and your entire staff?
No, we'll do May 30th is the way we do things around this
The
way.
day before.
We'll huddle up. We good? We good. And then the meeting is over. Yeah.
No, I will say there's going to be a mad dash of people trying to pull loan authorizations around the end of May. It's going to be insane.
Yeah. Do not delay if you are a BDO getting that authorization. If you're a business broker that watches this show, I was talking to a group. Just so happened I had a training today. It was planned well in advance, and the new SOP dropped. So I was up last night. Like I added like 10 new slides, and that was the focus of it. So thanks to that group. But
yeah, he sent the slideshow out to everybody to use, and the first slide is his face.
Hey,
that's
yo,
smart.
You got to get business.
I am Chris Hackney.
I did say, hey, step 1, replace my face with yours. Here, team, use this in your marketing efforts. Right now, it's too early. You got to focus on getting what's in the pipeline right now done, approved. You should be figuring out how to structure your deals that are early in the process to meet and match the soon to be effective SOP as well too. But we're gonna have some meetings and get some stuff in place too. Honestly, I kind of like this stuff because if you're a BDO, it once again levels the playing field. So Susie Smith, John Smith, I've been doing SBA lending for 30 years, and I've been you know what? Well, we're all playing by the we miss you, Kroger. We're all playing by the same rule book now. And so this is a good time. As I said, we're in Houston to enter into SBA lending because
you did say that during our breakout. You said it's you got all these people who are like, I've been doing this for so and so and so. Well, everything's brand new. So we're the exact same.
By the way, thank God that we did that before this happened.
Yeah, for sure. That was such a good
could you imagine? If we would have done that there. Oh gosh.
Any predictions for future rule changes? Anything else you guys think is coming down the pipe?
I think they're going to up the loan size or for manufacturing. I keep hearing that allegedly.
Kelly Loeffler did say at the beginning of that call that they were looking at increased guarantees for the reshore effort. So I do see that. The pattern has been big changes, couple months of that cleanup. So like we've had procedural notices come in between all of these different SOPs, 07, 71, this one. So I do think there's going to be probably 30, 60, 90 days out, some sort of procedural notice that cleans up the things that it missed, right? But I want to use this opportunity here because I've never been on your show before.
What?
And I want to use this as an opportunity here. And this is a little bit spontaneous, but I want to come out on your show as an independent because
what?
I liked a lot of the changes of the last SOP, and I didn't like some of the changes of the last SOP. And here we are again. I feel the same way. I love a lot of what they're doing. Equity injection for startups. Yes, please. Do what you do. Bye. Franchise directory. Come on back. But why are we killing some of this stuff? Partial change of ownership. Why can't small loans be $500,000, but you have to do cash flow and you have to, take collateral, have hazard insurance, and why it's always like this overcorrection. This is what I was worried about. So I remain an independent realist when it comes to these SBA policies, and I just wish we weren't in this sort of pattern of the pendulum swinging so far back and forth, because it creates a lot of unnecessary uncertainty for small business, and that's just not good for anybody.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that at all.
Well said.
All right, what about referral fees and those getting capped? I've heard some rumors that could potentially be something that the SBA is looking at doing. Do you guys want to say yay or nay on whether or not you think it's going to happen, and also whether or not you'd be in favor of it, Chris?
I don't know if they'll get there will be changes to referral fees, is what I have heard from many people. And I'm okay with that. I think it's getting out of hand as far as the number of hands in the pot, the amount of fees attached to one loan. You could have, I don't know, 6 or 7 points going out the door on an SBA loan for one reason or another. And it's like, this is an SBA loan. Like, if you want to do that, there's MCA, there's other products where you can go, make that type of, pay those type of points. So I'm okay with a correction there too. And then if it happens to everyone across the board, then you need to level up as a BDO, because you can't buy business. As someone who was the first to do the 3% referral fee, again, pioneer, you're going to have to step your game up.
Ray, what do you think?
The referral fees are an interesting one, because I did spend 3 months as a loan broker when I was in between shops. And if you do it right, which I was doing with understanding the deal, almost acting like a BDO, and putting together a narrative and doing all of this work, 1% is not going to cut it. So I like the idea, if of capping it, just from I guess like a selfish standpoint of like, okay, if everyone can only pay a point, then we can't just start going, hey, I'll pay 1.5 points, come over here, 2 points, 3 points. But if I really take a step back and look at it, I think loan brokers have to be paid relative to the amount of work they're putting into it. And some loan brokers are better than others. And so I don't want good loan brokers to leave the industry because they can't make enough money from
Yeah,
the
I agree with
fee
that.
schedule or whatever.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the quality will go down, no doubt about that. The amount of work that's put into each file will definitely go down if we put a cap on referral fees. And ultimately, it probably will bog down the BDO, because the BDO is going to have to take a little bit more time to scrub files. You're going to have to kiss more frogs, or you have to figure out what's a deal and what's not a deal. Whereas if you have a really good referral source, oftentimes they're bringing you deals that just don't require as much work, or they're helping you do the heavy lifting. So I see it as a double-edged sword. I think it's good and it's bad. Like you said, there's probably some good people who may leave the industry if that happens. But there's also, a good thing for us BDOs who feel confidently, as we should, that we're the best BDOs around, and that if there's a level playing field, that we're going to be able to win a lot of business. So definitely a good and bad one there.
Great, guys. Thank you so much for your takeaways on the new SOP. Is there anything else we want to chat about quick?
No, Emily, great job being up to date on the SBA SOP.
Thank
What's
you.
crazy is that she didn't even read any of these.
No,
This was off the dome.
off the top.
Yeah, it was right there. As soon as it dropped last night, I just plugged
When are you
it
gonna
in.
make your
Right
first
in.
loan? I'm excited. First
Are you
loan
lending
coming.
now?
No, I should though.
She should, with all that SOP knowledge. Let's get it going. Get us
Guys,
out of here.
it's been an honor to be here with you guys. I just want to thank you so much for inviting me.
Come
on.
back anytime. I didn't know this was your
We
first.
bullied you onto the
first-
show. We
first
didn't invite you.
Yeah. Gosh, I thought you started this thing, but anyways.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for listening. Go ahead and send your topics and suggestions and any questions that you have about these SOP updates to the BDO Show at artofsba.com. And again, don't forget to check out our whole family of shows. SBA Today airs live every week, and then the Art of SBA Lending podcast. And we'll see you next time.